All right, ready to dive into a business classic.
Let's do it.
This one reads more like a thriller, actually.
Oh,
Cracking Open the Goal Today by Eliyahu Goldratt.
all right.
You sent over a whole stack of notes, excerpts, even a full-on summary of wow, someone's been busy. This is going to be more than just your average factory story.
What's fascinating about the goal is how it sneaks up on you. Even The Economist, not exactly known for light reading, called it a page-turner about a factory. It's management disguised as a thriller, and it's been surprisingly influential.
Which, you have to admit, isn't the first thing that pops into your head when you think business bestseller.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's on the recommended reading list for everyone, from CEOs to students, that's intriguing. What makes it so universally applicable?
Goldratt embeds these profound business lessons in a really human story.
Okay.
You're not just getting dry theory. You're experiencing it alongside the characters, and that makes it stick.
And speaking of sticking with you, our notes mention Jeff Bezos using it to shape Amazon's early strategy, if it's good enough for Bezos.
Exactly. When you hear that even someone like Bezos found value in these principles, you know there's something special here.
Okay, you've definitely piqued my curiosity. For those of us who haven't read it yet, set the scene. What's the story behind the goal?
The book centers around Alex Rogo, a plant manager facing a crisis.
Uh-oh.
His factory is on the verge of shutting down, orders are late, production is a mess, and he's got 3 months to turn things around. Talk about pressure.
Oof, I can feel the stress already. And I bet it doesn't help that his personal life is a mess too, right?
Right. Goldratt doesn't shy away from the personal stakes.
Mm.
Alex is dealing with a strained marriage. He's constantly at work. It's a relatable struggle that many of us have experienced.
So it's not just about machines and deadlines. It's about a guy trying to save his job, his marriage, and maybe his sanity in the process.
Precisely. And just when it seems like all hope is lost, in walks Jonah, a mysterious figure from Alex's past, who becomes a sort of business Yoda. He guides Alex with these deceptively simple questions that challenge everything Alex thought he knew about efficiency.
Okay, I'm hooked. Everyone thinks they're efficient, but this Jonah character sounds like he's about to shake things up. What's his first move?
Jonah starts with a bombshell of a question. What's the goal AL of a business? Sounds obvious, right?
Okay, that's a pretty profound shift in perspective. But how do you actually measure that? How do you make sure everyone in the company is moving in the right direction?
That's where Goldratt introduces his now famous 3 core metrics: throughput, inventory, and operating expense. These metrics, when understood correctly, become the compass guiding every decision you make.
Okay, you've thrown out some serious business jargon. Throughput, inventory, operating expense.
Right.
Break it down for us. What do these really mean in the context of this money-making mission?
Think of it like this. Throughput is the rate at which the system generates money through sales.
Okay.
It's not just about producing. It's about producing things people actually BUI.
Right.
Yeah, it's the lifeblood of your business.
So it's about velocity, how quickly you're turning inventory into actual cash.
Exactly. Then there's inventory, which represents all the money tied up in the stuff you plan to sell. Raw materials, work in progress, even those finished products gathering dust in a warehouse, it's all inventory.
Basically anything you've invested in but haven't yet converted into profit.
Right. And then we have operating expense, the money you spend turning that inventory into throughput.
Okay.
Think salaries, rent, marketing, all those costs that keep the lights on and the business running.
So it's like a delicate dance, isn't it? You want to maximize throughput, minimize inventory, and keep operating expense in check. Sounds simple enough in theory.
Easier said than done. And this is where the goal throws a curveball your way. Remember those robots they bring into Alex's plant, hoping for a massive efficiency boost?
Yeah, the shiny new toys that were supposed to solve everything. I'm sensing a but coming.
But they actually make things worse.
Oh no, really?
It's one of the book's most powerful lessons. Simply automating things, even with cutting-edge tech, doesn't guarantee improvement.
So much for technology being the magic bullet. I bet this is where Jonah's unconventional wisdom swoops in to save the day.
Absolutely. You see, instead of getting distracted by flashy new equipment, Jonah redirects Alex's attention to the bottlenecks within the system.
Bottlenecks, like those frustrating traffic jams that seem to appear out of nowhere. Everyone's suddenly in a rush at the worst possible time.
Exactly. But in a factory setting, a bottleneck is any resource that limits the capacity of the entire production process.
Okay.
It's the thing that's slowing down the entire operation. creating a backlog.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this connects. So even if every other part of the factory is running smoothly, that one slow point can throw everything off.
Exactly. And this is where Goldratt's genius as a storyteller comes in. He illustrates this complex concept using something relatable and even humorous.
Huh?
A Boy Scout hike.
Okay, a hiking analogy. Now we're talking. I'm already picturing scenic mountains and trail mix. Tell me more.
So imagine Alex, our stressed-out plant manager, leading a troop of Boy Scouts on a weekend hike. He's trying to keep everyone together, but the group keeps spreading out, with huge gaps forming between the boys.
I can see where this is going. Utter chaos.
Yeah.
And a recipe for someone getting lost in the woods.
Right. And as he observes this hiking fiasco, Alex has an epiphany. He realizes that the speed of the entire group is dictated by the slowest hiker. In the book, his name is Herbie.
Poor Herbie, always the one holding everyone back. I bet the other scouts are dying to get ahead.
Exactly. But here's where the analogy gets insightful. Jonah uses Herbie to represent the bottleneck in a factory setting.
Okay, I'm making the connection now. So even if you have the most efficient machines and highly skilled workers, if there's one slow point in the production line, the entire operation suffers.
Precisely. That's why, according to the goal, a perfectly balanced plant where each stage has equal capacity can actually be a recipe for disaster. It's the bottleneck, the Herbie of the operation, that holds the key to unlocking true efficiency.
Wow, that completely changes how you think about efficiency, doesn't it? It's not about eliminating bottlenecks entirely, but understanding and even leveraging them to your advantage.
Exactly. It's about working smarter, not harder. And it forms the basis of Goldratt's theory of constraints, which provides a framework for identifying and managing those bottlenecks. But we'll dive into that right after this.
So we found Herbie, that bottleneck that's throwing everything off.
Right.
But what's the next step? Do we try to replace him?
Well,
Get a faster hiker?
that's the surprising thing about the theory of constraints.
Okay.
It's not about eliminating the bottleneck entirely,
Yeah.
but about understanding and optimizing around it.
Hold on, really. I thought the whole point was to get rid of those slow points,
Yeah.
not embrace them.
Think of it this way. Bottlenecks are inevitable.
Okay.
Even if you address one another, one will always emerge. The key is to leverage them to make them work for you.
Okay, that's a pretty big mindset shift.
Yeah.
So how do we actually do that? What are the actionable steps?
Goldratt lays out a 5-step process called the process of ongoing improvement, or as it's more easily remembered, POJI.
Catchy. I love a good acronym. But acronyms aside, walk me through this POG thing. How do we actually put it into practice?
So step 1, we identify the constraint, our Herbie, we've already covered that.
Right.
Step 2 is exploiting that constraint, squeezing every bit of potential out of it.
So making sure it's running at full capacity,
Yeah.
eliminating any unnecessary downtime, streamlining processes,
Yeah.
really maximizing what we've got.
Precisely. Now, step 3 is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
We subordinate everything else to that constraint.
Okay.
The whole system's rhythm should revolve around maximizing the output of that one bottleneck.
So even if it means other parts of the system have some idle time, it's a small price to pay for overall gains.
Exactly.
We're playing the long game here.
Exactly. Now, step 4 is about elevating the constraint.
Okay.
Once you've optimized everything around it,
Hmm.
you can then consider investing additional resources to increase its capacity.
So maybe we do try to get a faster Herbie after all.
Right.
But only after we've exhausted all other options. We're not just throwing money at the problem.
Exactly. And finally, step 5 is crucial.
Okay.
Never stop looking for bottlenecks. It's a continuous cycle of improvement, always searching for that next constraint to leverage.
A constant quest for efficiency. I like it. But back to Alex and his factory. This all sounds great in theory, but did it actually work?
That's the beauty of the goal. It's not just theoretical.
Okay.
Alex's plant becomes a real-world case study for these principles. By applying them, he manages to turn the entire operation around.
That's the kind of happy ending we like to hear. But beyond the factory floor, how do these ideas translate to other parts of our lives?
That's the brilliance of the goal. It's not just a business book. It's a framework for thinking about any system, including our own lives.
Yeah.
We all have our own Herbies, those bottlenecks that hold us back from achieving our goals.
So instead of getting frustrated or overwhelmed, we need to identify those constraints and apply this same 5-step process to overcome them. Whether it's procrastination, fear of failure, or just a lack of resources, we can leverage those bottlenecks to our advantage.
It's about challenging our assumptions about efficiency and productivity, focusing on the ultimate goal, and embracing constraints as opportunities for growth.
This deep dive has given me a lot to think about.
Hmm.
Where's my Herbie hiding, and how can I turn that constraint into a catalyst for achieving my HOR goals? I think that's something our listeners can really take away from today's deep dive.
Absolutely.
The goal, it's not just about factories, it's about identifying and overcoming those bottlenecks in every aspect of our lives. It's about working smarter, not harder, and ultimately achieving those big, audacious goals we set for ourselves. And on that note, that wraps up our deep dive into The Goal by Eliyahu Goldratt.